Welcome back to my channel, Both Things Creative. I'm Zenna. I'm so glad you're here. Today's video is going to be part process, part tutorial. We're going to look at laser transfer images, reverse painting, and a few other fun techniques. So let's get started. So I pulled this print off of my 16 by 20 inch gel plate. In previous videos, I've mentioned that I really like to keep a junk plate off to the side of kind of my workstation. And when I'm done with a stencil, or I need to clean off a brayer, or just feel the urge to make a random mark, I do that on the plate. And as the layers build, they're very random and improvised. They almost always end up being a really neat background that I can use for an art piece. So here you can see a little bit of circles from my hot glue stamp that I did in a previous video. This is just a commercial stamp. I have a little copper metallic that I just sprinkled there. These lines are from the spine of a paper pad that I was finished with. So I just rolled that randomly on the gel plate, and then I pulled it with the matte medium, which is just an acrylic body without any pigment or paint or color in it. So now I'm going to put this off to the side and do a little bit more composing on this plate, maybe with kind of a central image here that I'll then add on to that background. So let's get started. There's a whole selection of copyright-free illustration books like this available on Amazon and online. Here's another one, Picture Archive. I think some of these are actually from the 70s. They're Dover illustration books, but so maybe Google Dover illustration, Dover copyright-free pictures, and you'll find a whole selection of books like these that are wonderful for finding images to use in your artwork and for image transfer on the gel plate. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to pick out an image and print it out on my laser printer and do an image transfer. So this is my laser printer. It's a Brother model. I'll add that to the description down below. I printed it out once. I'm going to open that tray and put it right back in and double print it. So here's my double printed image. I find that with my printer, printing it 2 times lays down enough toner to get a really good transfer. So essentially what happens is I'm gonna lay down black acrylic paint. I'm gonna put my image down on that paint. The toner acts as a resist, and it leaves the paint on the plate in the areas that the toner is on these paper, and the white on my paper lifts the paint up. So in essence, we're transferring this image onto the gel plate in acrylic paint. So let's just see what that looks like. I've had the most luck with Amsterdam acrylic oxide black with a tiny bit of carbon black fluid from Golden. I've had pretty good luck if you're just wanting to buy one black paint. Get the Amsterdam. I've gotten really good transfers just using Amsterdam, but I've been experimenting lately with using a combination of the two. So put down just a little bit of paint. Just a dab of the fluid. And this is also an important step of getting the image transfer to work. There are many variables here. It's going to take practice. I've been working on this for maybe 6 months, and I still don't always get it right. But you want to get a nice, smooth, shiny layer of thin paint, not too thick, And then before it starts to dry, get your paper down pretty fast. Down, a little bit of pressure, light pressure. And what has that been? Maybe 7 or 8 seconds. Okay. A little bit more. A little bit more. Okay, it's all right. Not my best transfer, but you see that the toner repelled the paint, so the paint stayed on the plate, and the paper picked up the paint around the toner. Maybe these little spots were because I didn't get even pressure there, or the paint was a little bit thicker there when I rolled it out. But you want to lay it down before the paint begins to dry, so that as it's drying and adhering to the paper, and that gives you the best luck of removing it cleanly from the plate. And then you also don't want to leave the paper too long on the gel plate, or the paint will begin to dry and stick to the toner, and your image will be pulled up along with the paint around the image, if that makes sense. So I'm actually gonna try this again. I'm gonna try it again. Another issue, I think, is that this brayer needs to be cleaned, and it had some old dried paint on it, and so it was not giving me a perfectly smooth surface when I was rolling out the black acrylic. And that not perfectly smooth surface translates to a not perfectly transferred image. So to clean that paint off, I just had a wet rag. I didn't even use soap. I usually use Dawn if I have dried acrylic. It's easier to get up, but since the paint was still wet, it was really easy to get it off with just a normal wet rag. And then I came in with a dry rag, because if there's moisture left on the plate, then the next time I add paint, it might bead up. So I'm just making sure that the surface is completely dry. Okay, let's try this again. This time I'm trying to use this rag so I can get more even pressure across the whole surface and not get my hands dirty. We'll see how it goes. Definitely pulled more paint up. There's still a little spot there. Not the worst. Not the worst. I'm going to briefly use my blow dryer to dry this. I've heard mixed things about using a blow dryer and or a heat gun, that they can ruin your plate. I've personally never used a heat gun, so be careful with that. And if you're using the heat setting on a blow dryer, keep your distance, or just go with the cool setting, and you should be able to protect your gel plate. So once you get an image transferred onto your gel plate, you have a couple options for pulling it. You can lay down, again, a matte medium and pull the print on paper, and then you would just have the black paint defining your image. Or you can use any other color or combination of paints behind your image, along with textures. Or you can reverse paint. And reverse painting is essentially painting in the image behind the defined outline of the black paint. So I'm gonna do that and show you what that looks like. So let's get started. I'm feeling kind of lazy, so I'm not gonna use a palette. I'm going to use my paints. This is almost gone. So I do think it feels more vibrant and complete when you build up layers as you're reverse painting. So I tend to put a layer down in a certain area of the image and let it dry and move on, and then come back and add a few more layers so that it's not so transparent. Actually, I've also heard that putting a layer of matte medium down first helps the paint not beat up on your image, but I personally haven't tried that before. Maybe I should. And so just like we build layers on the gel plate normally, as I'm building layers here, I'm actually getting further and further away from the viewer's eye and more into the background. And so these layers of paint will affect the layers in front of them, but they won't be the first layers that your viewer will see when they're viewing your finished piece. And this green may not even be really that visible through the black paint that's already there, but I think we'll be able to see a little bit of it. Some paints are more transparent than others. This olive green is one of my favorite colors, but it is fairly transparent. So I'm gonna dry this quickly so I can add one more layer here. Again, you could set up your full palette and mix up paints here. They do need to be acrylic, but I'm avoiding that cleanup today. Uh-oh, too much water. That's what happens when there's water on your plate. That could be a problem because it might affect the black paint that's already dried on the plate that is defining her face. So we'll see when we pull the print. Oops, that might have been because I left water on my brush. I'm gonna use a wet rag to clean up my black border from my transfer. Now, since that paint is dry, it's a little harder to get off. I would advise cleaning that up before you move on. Some of this ghost image may still be picked up when I pull this print. I'm not really mad about it. So let's just see what happens. So again, I'm aiming to pull this with this print I've already pulled. So I'm just imagining kind of how I want things to line up, which I think I'm gonna put her over on this orange side. And then what else? What else do I want to add? Maybe not. Maybe I want to put her over here. Yeah, that's what I want. Let's see. Okay. Here. I found this doily I've been wanting to play with. See what kind of texture it might leave on the plate. So let's try it. That is very sticky paint. Now I don't want to leave this paper too long. If I left it here to dry, then it would eventually, all the layers on the plate would dry and it would pull up half of my my little woman and child image transfer. So I don't want that. I don't want to wait too long. That's kind of nice. And then why not bring in my hot glue stamp again. Now, I don't think I want these defined edges on the plate to transfer, so I'm going to come in with my wet rag again and just pull some of that back. And I'm drying any little water that was left from the wet rag. I think I want her to pop a little bit, so I'm going to put a little copper, iridescent copper. This is Daniel Smith Artist Dry Pigment. I don't think they actually produce this anymore, but there's plenty of like metallic pigments on the market now. I got these from a friend. I was very lucky to get a whole selection of these pigments from her. I use this fan brush. Go outside the circle just a little bit. Now that edge is going to be like a hard edge now, and I don't think I want that, so I might come and like rein that in a little bit. And now I'm going to pull this with matte medium, again, colorless. Okay, now I think I'm going to put it right in the middle here. With reverse painting, I do like to lay down a book to make sure that all the layers keep in contact during the drying process. And I'm probably going to give this one 20 or 25 minutes to dry, just so all those layers of paint have a chance to adhere to each other and come up with a clean print. So we'll be back. Okay, I'm back, and I actually stepped away and started working on other projects, so it's been a few hours. So it should come off cleanly. Maybe. Maybe. A lot of that metallic pigments getting left on the plate, but that will be a cool effect the next time I work on this plate. Oh. Even after this much drying time, sometimes that many layers of paint can really have a hard time pulling up. So just pull very slowly. There we go. So this is how reverse painting works, right? The painting I did is behind the transferred image. It's behind the layer of black paint defining the image. And then I laid down that kind of lilac blue behind the reverse painting and then sprinkled the copper down. And so that really shines through. Okay, so here's a close-up. We can look at some of the detail. There is that doily again, and the hot glue stamp, and you can really see that image. It was really pretty good transferred image. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. I did end up pulling a little bit of it up with my stamp there. So, and one other thing I wanted to point out is that you can actually see the defined line of my second pull, but Since I pulled the lavender paint back from the edge, it's not so noticeable, and it actually kind of blends into that back layer a little bit better, I think. So I still don't know if this is quite done. So if I add on to it, I'll film another little video and show you what I do next. There we go. As always, if you enjoyed this tutorial, this video, please subscribe. It helps me grow my channel, and I will be back with more videos. I'll see you soon.